Morning, folks. Morning, Ali. Morning, Brian. Morning, Dave. Morning, BJ. Morning, Marty. Morning, Alistair. Morning, Kirsty. Morning, Nancy. Morning, happy birthday, Christina. Christine, sorry. Morning, John. Morning, Brian. Morning, Ruth. Morning, Jane. Morning, Rosalind. Morning, Sue. BJ, you've got two screens on the go. Morning, Jacqueline. Morning, Alexander. Back across to YouTube. Morning, John. Morning, Ian. Morning, Reverend of Wrestling, Jim Campbell. Morning, Hugh. Morning, Eddie. Morning, Big Ray. Wee Bird. TJ Marty. Fiona. Alistair. Last Braveheart. Almost there. Okay, folks, that's 100 of you on board. So let's get this broadcast underway. Andy Truck Davey out the truck and at home in his office in Salisbury, North Lanarkshire, where it is overcast, wee bit drizzly, 10 degrees. No bad for this time of year. Okie dokie, so that's the weather forecast or weather outlook for Salisbury, North Lanarkshire. If you want to know what the weather's like where you are, look out your end, bloody windy. Alright, this is the news review for the 31st of the 10th, 2022, better known to you and me as yesterday. Right, Monday started with two main themes in the rags. A Cruella Beaverman's data security breach and NHS to see worst winter ever. On the Beaverman data breach, well, it's to be expected with this shower of incompetence down that road. Is it incompetence though? Let's face it, this shower of Tories have taken national security. They don't take national security very serious. 3 million in donations from Russian oligarchs, son of KGB agent in the Lords. Liz Truss's phone hack, Bojo, partying with Russian oligarchs at bunga parties in Italy without his security detail. Rich Russians in London given 2 weeks' notice of sanctions to give them time to get their money out of London. They're all going gains. All right, transfer of Russian oil to UK tankers off the coast of Suffolk. And then, so the UK is facilitating the flow of Russian oil onto the international markets when it's supposed to be sanctioned. Right. Beaverman's a sideshow and the psychodrama down that road. All right. As to the NHS suffer worst winter ever. Yep. Ongoing pandemic. Normal winter respiratory illness is about to join the fray. Staff shortages due to the ongoing pandemic. People being sick. Bed blocking is at an all-time high thanks to Brexit because all the Eastern Europeans that worked in the health and social care sector have gone home. Terribly underfunded due to budget constraints because the idiots in the House of Thieves and Carpetbaggers have squandered our resources and sell off all our assets. They've also wrecked the economy. And why? Well, because they don't serve the people or the country. They are in it for personal gain. I mean, look at the crooks in the House of Thieves and Carpetbaggers. The PM's worth 700 million quid. It's clear he's not in politics to serve the people. He is in power to change society for his and his friends' benefits. All right, moving on. Monday, and down that road in Brexit land. Some racist twat, probably empowered by the right-wing media narrative of asylum seekers bad, or different from white English bad. You know the type, we've all met them when we're down there. You know, that's the ones that tell you to F off, jock, back to where you came from. Right, anywho, one of those roasters chucks firebombs at a detention centre in Kent. An asylum seeker centre, processing centre in Kent. 3 petrol bombs, then he drives off to a local petrol station and tops himself. Now, no doubt the press will be portraying this man as having had mental illness. Can't have a white terrorist, that just wouldn't do. So no doubt this man will be described as having mental illness. But how much of that mental illness that was created by the narrative being set down that road by the likes of Farage, Theresa May, Patel, Beaverman? How much has mental illness shoved them in the direction of attacking these poor people coming from overseas, seeking asylum and aid here? Theresa May, the hostile environment, remember that? Vans going around London, F off illegal immigrants. Priti Patel and her Rees just turn them around and send them back to France, drown them in the Channel or stick them in a plane to Rwanda. And now we'll get Beaverman, wet dream, sending them to Rwanda. So, some nut job down that road tried to kill a lot of people coming here seeking asylum, and it was probably due to the right-wing racist narrative down that road, coming for the Tory elite. Right, moving on Monday. And just to throw petrol on the fire down that road, daughter of immigrant being used to front Tory elite's racist racism, the puppet, Cruella Beaverman, a mediocre lawyer promoted above her abilities to front the hostile environment, tells being racist Tory MPs she intends to halt the invasion of people fleeing poverty and persecution in their own lands. Oof, mental. Right. As I say, it's a madhouse down that road, and the loonies are running the asylum. The Brexit has caused a labour market shortage, and because of the colour of their skin, those mainly young people who are coming here seeking asylum are being prevented from coming here. White Ukrainians fleeing war, and they are also finding it difficult to enter or gain access to the UK. So brown Albanians have absolutely no chance. And what's interesting about what's going on down that road, the House of Thieves and Carpetbaggers hasn't set up any legal means for people who want to come here, who are on the continent of Europe, to apply for asylum here. They haven't set anything up. So when they talk about illegal immigrants, it's because there's no other way to get here except for illegally. Mental. Anyway, Braverman throws petrol on the fire for the right-wing racists down that road by saying she'll stop what she's calling an invasion. Robert Jenrick this morning, which I would probably talk about more, but I'm going to go on to it now because we're on the subject. He more or less backs it up and says that the UK can't absorb 40,000 people a year coming across that channel. We don't have the infrastructure, apparently. Bollocks. You build the infrastructure, you put these people to work, the tax that they earn, pays for the infrastructure. It's out and out racism. We have a labour market shortage. We are desperate for young, fit, intelligent people, but they can't come here. Brexitania for you, huh? Brilliant stuff. Moving on. Also Monday, talking about a state propaganda machine and throw in the right-wing Tory-owned press. Well, they're buttering up the plebs for a battering. We, the plebs, are expected to pay for the ruling elite's incompetence in stewarding our resources and our wealth. Basically, they're stealing the bloody stuff, actually. But the UK press and the state propaganda machine, the BBC, are buttering us plebs up for the kill to continue. So we're being told in 2 weeks' time, or 3 weeks' time, whatever it is, to expect tax hikes and cuts to public services, which will lead to many more deaths. Granny will be riding the bus this winter to keep warm, or she'll be going to a warm bank as well as a food bank because she can't afford to eat. What a feckin' disaster. But we are expected to pay for the theft and incompetence of the ruling elite down that road who wanted Brexit to protect what they've got. Remember, Brexit's all about the Anti-Tax Avoidance Directive, which was introduced in Europe in April 2018. David Cameron even tried to negotiate the UK's way out here before announcing the Brexit referendum. Right, so expect a hard winter, folks, with a lot of your folks dying, and watch the tax jump, the energy cost cap disappear, interest rates go, as the elite circle round and take back everything that we have gained since the Second World War. Right, moving on Monday, and as a wee look round these islands, and NHS England is in meltdown, NHS Wales is in meltdown, NHS Northern Ireland is in meltdown. Here in Scotland is the only part of these islands that blame's being laid at the door of the ruling administration. In England, it's the pandemic, stupid. In Wales, it's the pandemic, stupid. In Northern Ireland, there's no administration and the pandemic, stupid. Only here in Scotland is it the government's incompetence. The state propaganda machine is in full Scottish government crap, Scotland crap, for voting for a separatist government. It would be funny to watch that they are damaging our children with their constant put downs. They're trying to undermine the confidence of our children and of the people. And that's to make us think that we are not capable of governing ourselves. But let me fix this for the propaganda machine, shall we? Scotland's NHS is the best operating NHS in these islands, spanners. That's no me saying that. Swedish expert, House of Commons, January 22nd, 2022, was asked by Jeremy Hunt and others in the committee, which healthcare service would you put at the top of the tree internationally? And the Swedish healthcare expert said, Scotland. Scotland's got the best NHS. There you go. Also goes on to talk about the preventative measures to make sure patient safety and things like that in the Scottish NHS. So, when they're shouting in the House of Thieves and Carpetbaggers that our NHS is failing, take it from me, it's no. The Swedish guy's advice to the House of Thieves and Carpetbaggers was, follow Scotland. The Nordic countries are following Scotland. Follow Scotland. So that's me fixed that for the MSN out there. Problems in the NHS are not any different from where they are elsewhere. The difference is the problems in the NHS are less than what they are elsewhere in these islands. But this narrative, of course, is because health and social care is no longer the government's problem in England, and they intend to privatise it and move towards an insurance-based health system. So our NHS is going to be undermined as well, because in order to be able to get rid of theirs, they need to package up the whole of the UK's NHS system. Right, moving on Monday, and back here in Scotland, Dougie Ross, the comically irrelevant Tory leader, is calling for unity in his party, as his Jacob's phone a shaky nail and the knife's a root for him. The Tories are also calling for upgrades to the A96 and the A9. The Tories claim that the two roads see a fatality every 20 days, and it has done since 2012. So that's 109.5 people lost their lives on these two roads in 6 years. The Tories blame the roads. Folks, I've been a professional driver most of my working life. All right. And the roads are never to blame. Okay. The roads have never been the problem. It's always been the person or the machine, or most likely a combination of both. I've never been on a road, no matter where, and no matter what the weather, where accidents were the road's fault. Never. It's always been the man, woman, youth, whoever's driving the machine, or the machine, if you're very unlucky, it'll malfunction. People don't drive to road conditions. They don't understand it. They get in their cars without knowing what they're doing. They will take to a road, think they know that road and take risks. I have never, ever seen a road be responsible for a death. Take my word for it. I've been throwing big rigs around these islands for years. Now, why are the Tories up here screaming about the A9 and the A96? Well, Davey's going to tell you the answer. Westminster intends to invest directly here in Scotland while cutting the Scottish Government's budget. This is the baubles that will be offered to us. And the baubles that will be offered first will be the A9, which goes through Tory Perth, the A96, which goes through Tory Moray, and the A75, which goes through the borders, Toryland. These are the baubles that have to be dangled in front of us, where they will tell us, look, your crappy Scottish Parliament couldn't do it, but the broad shoulders of the UK can do it. What they idiots don't know is, what we already know is, that if we take control of our finances and our vast resources ourselves, then there'll be no budget cuts and we can invest heavily in infrastructure. The First Minister's just laid out a plan under independence for 20 billion worth of infrastructure investment in the first decade. I think she underestimates Scots wealth, but she's got to be realistic for the people. So, we're being offered baubles here, folks. The Tory party in Scotland are lining up these baubles to make it look as if the very Parliament that they serve in is crap at what it does, so that they can take away more and more of our powers. Right, so that's the sleight of hand. That's a trade-off. Do you take crumbs for the table or do you take the fucking table? Okay. Where are we now? Anyway, it's a bit like they find with the Trussell Trust and the food banks, right? The UK government funds the Trussell Trust while taking away the safety net of the welfare state. That's what we're talking about when we're talking about sleight of hands and baubles. This is the sophistication of the propaganda machine, the MSM, and the ruling elite working together. They trumpet the success and generosity of ordinary people while funding the Trussell Trust to provide food banks while they take away the benefit system. The welfare state disappears. No more cradle to the grave. All advances made by the peoples of these islands, especially here in Scotland since devolution, and we've shown that we are better at running our own affairs, have to be taken away. People who are struggling don't have time to fight the government. And it's the same with the asylum seeker situation. People will allow the government to mistreat these people outrageously. Why? Because they're too busy concentrating and trying to keep a roof over their head, keep warm, and feed their children. So any abuses in the background will be ignored. Absolutely ignored. And of course, the right-wing press down that road will use that narrative of coming out here stealing our jobs and women to keep the destitute people on these islands eyes turned away from the disastrous economic policies of the ruling elite who dragged us out of the world's biggest free market to protect their assets and their wealth because of the anti-tax avoidance directive. Okay, moving on. Monday, and back down that road, opposition parties and what they call the wokeratry, who believe in compassion, are asking the Home Office, is the Home Office deliberately mistreating asylum seekers in the hope of deterring others from coming across the channel in small boats? Well, apparently some Tory MP in Kent thinks so. Also, we'll get the other evil one, Priti Patel, saying that Beaverman is deliberately doing it to make the UK unbearable for asylum seekers to come to. That's a pot calling kettle black when it comes to Patel. Right. Anyway, the Stussies over a crowding at a detention centre in Kent. All right. Now, the Home Office was warned of the dire conditions The Home Office were made aware of alternatives to alleviate the overcrowding, but refused to sign off on the measures. Right, what the Home Office call lefty lawyers have warned the UK government is breaking the law by not meeting asylum seekers' basic needs. So the hostile environment continues. The suffering imposed on the indigenous people of England will see the normally benevolent and compassionate people of England turn their eyes away. All right, it's quite a clever narrative. The elite use the ruling classes use their media access and their propaganda machine to tell us, they're coming here to take our jobs and our women. Okay. Right, let's move on. I will kill that one to death. Right, moving on Monday. And All Hallows Eve, madness descends on Dundee for the second year in a row. All right, as darkness fell in Dundee around about 1730 in the Kirkton area, gangs of youths dragged wheelie bins into the roads and set them on fire. They also smashed up cars, threw bricks and fireworks at moving vehicles, some with children in them. They broke windows at a local school. Riot police and fire and rescue were dispatched to the area. Now, I've read a few reports on this, and it would seem it was quite coordinated. So let's hope they catch the buggers. Because if it was deliberate, it was coordinated, and the ringleaders, when they're caught, should be given a bigger sentence than the rest of the Muppets. So Dundee descends into madness for the second year in a row. Right, also Monday here in Scotland, teachers ballot for strike action over violent attacks from pupils. What the hell's happening? Wow. They're balloting to go on strike because pupils are attacking them. It would appear that some of these teachers haven't got control of their classrooms. Right, moving on Monday. And a survey by this one kept me up late last night, actually. I found it fascinating. I'm still reading it at 1:30 in the morning. Pretty heavy report, actually. Right, moving on Monday. And a survey by the British Beer and Pubs Association, the British Institute of Innkeepers, and the Hospitality Ulster Association, they published a report that says they expect a third of their members to be out of business by next summer. In the survey, 77% of venues said footfall was down, and they expected that to get worse as the cost of living crisis deepens, which it will. 35% of respondents were already operating at a loss and say they'll have to close because of running costs and falling footfall. Now, what was interesting is that 35% as well get the idea that a third of pubs and hospitality venues will be closed. So while I was at it last night, I went to relook at what would go on in restaurants, cafes, and takeaways at the same time. And they're all saying the same thing. And so these reports go right into the in-depth in it. The reason why they predict this, and it will happen, is you get increased transport costs, you get food price inflation, you've got outrageous energy costs. The only thing that didn't really feature in the report, believe it or not, was wage demands. Because a lot of them are family businesses, so they only take out what they need to live in order to keep the business running. So hefty reports last night on the economic situation facing the nighttime and entertainment industry, as well as food and drink, hospitality venues. Absolutely fascinating and horrifying read. The amount of people that are employed in that sector is absolutely massive. Mass unemployment's on its way, kids, and it's coming at a rapid rate of knots. Well. So that's the stories I picked out for yesterday for you to talk about. I hope you found it entertaining. I hope you found it informative. Shall we have a wee look and see what crap's in the rags this morning then, folks? Okay, here we go. Scotland's papers. Braverman fights for job and courts could shut. So let's see what's in the rags. The Times has alarms at Braverman's immigration rhetoric. And it's got a picture here in our ministerial car looking like the rug's been pulled out from under her. The Eye has cabinet anger as Braverman fights for her political life. Same picture here in a ministerial car, looking as if it's all over. The Metro has welcome to the UK, and it's got a picture of kids pressed up against a metal wired fence and a detention centre. No beds, no fresh air, no toilets, no compassion. And these are all reports on the fact that it is believed that the Home Office is deliberately undermining the human rights of these people in order to deter others from coming. The Daily Telegraph has sweeping tax rises on rough road ahead. PM and Chancellor agree burden must be shared to fill 50 billion hole in public finances created basically by Brexit and Truss and their stupid Trussonomics. Which reminds me, I was going to do a bit on Trussonomics there. I missed it. Ah well. The Looney Rag, the Express has dire warning higher tax on way to plumb debt. We got to remember, folks, that debt is there not because the UK is poor. It's there because of profiteering by those and such and those in the ruling classes. The very term ruling class should be enough to batter alarm bells right across these islands, but they're freely using these terms. The Scotsman has courts could be shut down due to justice budget cuts, MSPs told. Well, the Scottish Government's budget's being cut. Not that Scotland's scant, it's just that we don't control our own assets. And when you don't control your own finances, then the fecker next door can run up huge debts on your credit card and take away what little you have to pay for it. The Herald has exports slumped by 13% since Brexit. And that goes right across the board, from oil to shellfish to whisky. Sales to the EU from Scotland dropped by 2.2 billion. Talk about economic disasters. The other Looney Rag, the Scottish Daily Mail has bird flu threat to Christmas dinner. There another wee dead cat on the table to take your mind off what's going on. The National has Holyrood miles ahead of Tories on trust. Survey results are a sign of continued faith in the Scottish Government, says Robertson. And Gibson findings show that people want decisions made in Scotland. And only 14% think that Westminster ought to have more control. So 14%, I make that 86% in favour of more decisions or all decisions being made in Holyrood. The Daily Lancet has Killer Tobin's late night wheelbarrow trips to fuel. Very good. Apparently one of his neighbours said that he used to take a wheelbarrow and go to the field every night. You think the neighbour would get curious and find out what the hell the bugger was up to? Right, what's the Star got for us a day? The Star has 30C offices for MPs while we all shiver. Hot House of Commons. It's so toasty, windows left open all winter. So what the Star's basically saying is, they're rubbing their noses in it. Well, remember, they get their electricity bills paid for them out of expenses. And now they're running that old palace down there. It must cost a fortune to heat it, Anyway, that's what I've got for you today, folks. I hope you found it entertaining. I hope you found it informative. I was noticing that the viewing figures are down on Facebook, but they're up on the 3 channels I go on YouTube. And I don't really know how many watch it on Patreon. So viewing figures are way down on Facebook, but I notice a lot of you have moved to YouTube. What I would say is, if you like what I do, please decimate it across your social media chat platforms. Don't want money, don't want nothing off these. Just, if you think what I'm saying is relevant and my interpretation of the news is right, share it around. Okay, so remember, there is a campaign on. Get your eyes on the prize, learn your how you gonies and get out there and win hearts and minds. Oh, and I missed a bit about Ferguson, Marine and all. Just as well, because the programme will be too long. Right, okay. So, Support the independent media, support Broadcasting Scotland, Independent Live, and the Live Radio, Caledon Media, Truth Radio, the iScot magazine, and the national newspaper. Support independent bloggers and bloggers. And if you've got a crowdfunder going and you've got a few shekels to spare, please throw them in the pot. These guys do great work. And remember, follow the last of the guidance on the pandemic, because it hasn't gone away. Okay. And face covering in the closed public spaces, and clean hands and surfaces regularly. If you're not feeling well, mask up, show some consideration for your friends, your family, your neighbours, and social distance. If you're still using NHS lateral flow tests, please submit your results to NHS Scotland, as you guys in health and social care live in our communities, and it's a good way to be able to track what's going on in the communities. Because us, the plebs, we can't afford to nip out and buy lateral flow tests, and when we do, there's no barcode on them for us to send into, or QR code for us to send to NHS Scotland with the results. So there you go. Right, thanks very much for watching, folks. And say if you like what I do, share it around. Have a nice day. We'll be back tomorrow to do it all again. Bye for now.